beloved community is a community shaped and defined and destined by the reality of unselfish and often sacrificial love. And that's a different kind of community. A number of people have come to realize that while the legal strictures of Jim Crow have been greatly dismantled, they're not all gone completely. And to be sure, many of our schools are as segregated racially now as they were before the civil rights movement. But progress has been made. Let that not be denied. And yet, the walls of separation between us in our hearts and in our souls and in our deeper lives, those walls are still as real as they were 50 years ago.
Truth-telling is at the heart of what it means to become beloved community. It begins with truth-telling because, of course, if we don't know one another's stories, we can't really connect in a deeper way. And truth-telling means telling what really happened. It means the unvarnished truth of what our experience was. Speaking from our own experience, whatever place we are in that story is sometimes painful. It sometimes means taking a risk.
And one of the realities, I just think it's a reality, is we don't really know each other. James Baldwin in the early 1960s published a book of essays that said, "Nobody knows my name." We don't actually know each other's names. We don't actually know each other's stories. We don't actually know each other. And you cannot create community apart from genuinely knowing each other. And the way to actually learn and get to know another person is to actually listen to their story and to actually hear it.
Listening is so essential in building community of any kind. We know this in any relationship. The listening piece is vitally important in building trust, because if people don't feel heard, the relationship there's a crucial piece that's missing. And when people feel heard, then trust can begin to build.
The truth is, we will cross our racial divides when we actually dig down deep in each other. No, better yet, when we actually are vulnerable enough to receive each other's stories, to hear them, and to figure out how can we create a new story together.
You know, I don't want to label everything that ever happened in Salisbury like as bad, because everything wasn't.
My memories of Salisbury, I remember us driving to the parsonage on 212 West Liberty Street, and we went by Fulton Street, and at that time the YMCA was there. And I said, "Oh boy, we've got a YMCA right up the street." And it kind of got quiet because my brother and sister and my parents knew that even though it was there, that it was closed to, at that time, coloreds.
I was actually born here in Salisbury at Rowan Memorial Hospital in May of 1953. Have essentially lived here all of my life except for 7 years at Chapel Hill when I was in school and 3 years in Raleigh when I worked with the Justice Department. But beyond that, I have practiced law here for 42 years now.
Well, I have a lot of memories regarding growing up in Granite Quarry and in Salisbury, coming to Salisbury. Particularly in Granite Quarry, my mom was a housekeeper. And we found after a while that the person she was working for at that time was the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. And we didn't know that because he was nice to her.
You know, my parents brought me up to treat everybody the same. my daddy, he worked for white people. They were his friends. And he talked about them. He would go fishing with them. He kept families like the Norval families. He kept their children. So growing up in Salisbury it was okay. It was trying to figure out the race relations and just where I fit in.
If you pull any black person aside who grew up in the 40s, 50s, 60s, they can probably look back and tell you with remarkable clarity about the day they realized that they weren't white.
They're what I always call the you can't do this law. You can't do this, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. Everything was segregated by race, even your schools.
On city buses, even growing up, I could not sit in the front of the bus. I had to sit in the back of the bus.
There was the reality that if you went to the train station, there was a separate waiting room for colored people. And at the bus station, same thing. If you went to the stores, there were colored restrooms at the 5 and 10 cent stores, colored restrooms, and there was this separation, colored water fountains.
There was a restaurant right across the street from us, but as a African American, you couldn't go into the restaurant. You could go to the back door, to the window, to the kitchen, and you could order your food from there. And I remember that the Anderson family never went to that back window. My parents would not allow us to have to go to be served through a window, so we didn't go there.
I think the Jim Crow laws were established just to keep Black people from being accomplished people. The Jim Crow laws came about to make caricatures of Black people.
Things happen in our neighborhood, in our state, that, we wondered, why was this going on? All my mama could tell me was because they're Black or they attended a Black church, and you have people who do not like the Black people, and you wondered why.
And I remember an experience with my mom. We were at S&H Crest. I don't even go into the shop that's in that building anymore because we were in there and I was thirsty. And people were drinking from the colored fountain. And Mother said, oh, just step up on there were little steps, and drink some water there. So I did. And this man came out of nowhere, ranting and raving. She's not supposed to be drinking from that fountain. Can't you read? That says white. And my mom said, I wanted her to taste the white water today to see if there's a difference.
It was so automatic. I mean, you knew where you didn't go. Or you knew that you stepped aside on the sidewalk to let white people go by. Certain stores you didn't go in. The main one was like the biggest I say the biggest women's store in Salisbury was Purcell's Richard Dopkins. You didn't go in there. When they finally let us in, and they had one where my mother could shop and try on something to see if it fit. The others, you didn't try on the clothes. You looked at them, but you were not allowed to try them on. But things were segregated by race. That was just it. That was everything.
I remember going to school with a guy, a boy, because we were in junior high, we were young. And his name was Winton Tracy. He lived on the east side of town. He was in my class. He was kind of a heavy black boy.
He had a little white friend, and they got along, but they had a little argument one day after they got off the bus, and his friend went to his parents and told them, and the father of the young fella came out with a gun.
I don't know what happened. I can't remember if it was an argument or something. But the little white boy's daddy came out and shot him.
And then as he was laying on the ground, he was pleading for his life, and then he shot him again and killed him. And I remember that was a very tense time during the period here in Salisbury, because we had a trial, and the African-American community was very angry. And we wanted to make certain that there would be justice. It was a very dangerous time. There are places, even here in Salisbury, that you didn't go, because the reputation was that you might enter that community, but you might not come out of that community. So your life there was always a threat to your life in terms of moving through society.
And it was legal. That's the sad part. It was legal to treat people as though they were animals and as though they were non-existent. And a lot of people wonder now, because of a lack of education, some people don't want to understand what happened. And some feel better if they don't accept what happened in the past. If you don't acknowledge it, it didn't happen.
We need to start that process of talking, sharing each other's story, and then getting to the point where we can respect each other for who we are, and we can respect each other's opinions without getting angry with each other.
In teaching, I taught Hispanics. I taught Laotians. I taught Africans. I taught blacks. I taught whites. And teaching them, I learned a little bit about each one. And if we learn from other people about what they have been through, that helps you out a whole lot.
One word, honesty. In everything that we do, journalists need to be honest, school teachers need to be honest, lawyers need to be honest, policemen need to be honest, the waitress, waiter, wait person at the restaurant needs to be honest, and it's just a sense of personal integrity. And I think that will be the only solution until people feel that they have a personal responsibility for all their actions. We will not heal. And part of that is not looking at groups of people stereotypically or with preconceived notions, but meeting every person one-on-one, face-to-face, and realizing I'm talking with this individual. This is either the most wonderful person in the world, the most evil person in the world, or somewhere in between, but I have no idea, and I'm going to find out.
You know, I think that once you know about another race and you see where they're been and what they're going through with, it helps you heal. And you can help other people heal too by, you know, letting them know it's okay to be. I used to tell my children, it's okay. You know, I said, well, she's a little blacker. Oh, Miss Wood, I'm not black. And like I said earlier, I told my daddy, I said, Daddy, you're black. He said, I'm not black, I'm brown. I said, but that's the race that you're called, just like white and black. It took him a while to kind of gather that, but he did. So I let children know it's okay to be the color that you are. You know, be proud in it. Be proud of where you come from.
If you just listen to each other's story, I think that's what would make a difference. I have a story and you have a story. Just quietly listen to my story and try to feel what I'm feeling. And let me do the same for you. I think what's missing a lot in this world now is empathy. We don't have empathy for each other. We get angry if someone talks about their issues, and we walk away from it, just as ignorant as we were when we started out, if we would just take time to listen.
The beloved community is not a fairy tale. It's not a fond hope that will never be realized. It's the only hope, and it's real hope.